Hi and welcome to WigganRC, and today we're going to be looking at a new series, a three-part series of learning how to get into drone racing and start racing. And if you've been watching the channel, you'll have seen that I had my first drone race recently, and that will be in the description, the link to that. And moving from that, I realised straight away that some of the freestyle frames that we're using to fly around obviously are not going to give you that edge in racing a quad. So I've decided to put together a series and build a race quad. So as you can see here, this is the new Nimbus from QuadRacer, and thanks to the guys there that have really helped me put all of the components together and get this off the ground. So hope you enjoy the build video of this. This is the first build video on YouTube for this new race quad, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy the series. So here we go. Today is another good day because we're building the Nimbus racing frame. So that's from quadracer.com.au, and big thank you to John Cottrell for looking after me with all of the parts needed for my racing drone journey, and I've started the build. So as you can see, the frame is an X frame, and this is the top plate. It's got the camera mount and so forth, even a little 3D printed part for your GoPro if you ever want to do any freestyle. And it's got a built-in connector. I've already molded it into shape that sits on the back there, a little fin, so that's great. And in this build I'm going to be putting in the GS40 amp, and it's rated to 6S, and also the F4 HyperLite flight controller, and this is becoming a renowned flight controller for racers by Pyrodrone, and plenty of videos out there showing the reviews of this. So really excited to get with the build, and for the first time I'm actually going to be using the Tbs race wire, and this is just an arm that I've been pre-testing to see how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to double side tape down to the carbon to isolate it from the carbon to make sure it doesn't touch or short, and then I'm going to heat shrink it just to make sure as well that it's held in place nicely. And for this build I'm going to be using the Tbs Ravens. So these are 1800 kV and simple motor, nothing fancy, and they're going to be a powerhouse on this build because this is going to be a 6S setup, and we are going to really be able to start getting in some good track times. Now let me just clear away this a little bit. I've got my scales here, so let me just zero this out, the scales, and we'll see how much this thing's going to weigh. So that's zeroed. I'm going to put the frame on there. I'm actually going to put the 3D printed parts on there. I'm going to put the tail on there, but remember I've got the AXII already in there, and the brace cross piece. So I think that's all the frame parts on there, and that is 98 grams. Remember that the AXII from Rc is already in the tail fin, so obviously it'd be a little bit less without that. So there we have it, 97 grams. So we're going to continue on with the build. So I've already pre-tinned the speed controller, and I'm going to be putting it in an orientation like so, just to show you quickly. So I'll be putting it on the quad like that. So obviously motor 1 will have to be remapped to motor number 3, and motor number 2 will have to be remapped to motor number 1, and then motor 3 will have to be remapped to motor number 4, and motor number 4 will have to be remapped to motor number 2. So that's how I'm going to do the orientation. And then the good thing about this is that this can be mounted on top like that, where there's nothing on the top. It's upside down. I'll just have to make sure the orientation is correct, and that should be for a really clean build. So I'm going to actually also try the new Tbs Unify Pro 32, which is just here, from Team Black Sheep, and I'll also put in the Nano Crossfire Rx, so that should make sure I've got plenty of room. I'm also gonna put in the Foxeer Falkor Mini 1200 VTL, which fits nicely into this camera, so we're ready to go. So here we are with the ESCs in, and the motors have all been connected, and also the XD60. So there is all of the connections. I've tried to keep it nice and neat. Then the race wire I'll just solder on, I'll just heat shrink this when it's done. So just going to check continuity, make sure there's no shorts in the race wire, and there we go. Now I've put the camera in. I'm quite impressed how the camera fits in. Little Falkor micro there, so there we go. It's quite protected. It's not protruding in the front of the 3D print, so if I hit it, will hit that first. And yeah, so the frames went together pretty well. I did have a problem with one of the screws where it started to turn within the carbon. These little things here, one started to turn, but I managed to hold it with some pliers, but hopefully I won't need to take it out anytime soon, because that might be a little bit difficult. And also change the length of one of the screws that goes through to hold the board. So I changed that to a 16mm countersunk screw. I think there was 17 or 18mm with the set, and I just found that everything tightened down a lot better with that. So there's the build so far, looking pretty good. Now I've started the flight controller, and I've soldered the Crossfire Rx and the VTX already in, so, and the camera wires. So I'm more or less really done, because the connector goes straight into there. So connector goes straight into there, so I don't have to wire any of the motor wires, and that's really it. So really easy build. Camera wires, VTX wires, and the receiver wires, that was it. So 3 sets of wires, the ESCs, and you're done. So here is the finished quad, and really happy with this build. So as you can see, going in a bit closer, the race wires really neatened everything up, and I've added a 35 volt capacitor. It's just about out of the way for me to connect my flight controller. and I've got here a 3D printed mount for a GoPro, so at least I can then do a bit of video. That goes there and the straps in like that, so I'll be able to do a bit of video just to show the flight footage. And I love the way the back fin, the AXII just goes in nice and neat, so there's nothing to rip off, and like I've done in the past. And under there you can see on the vertical plate my VTX, and then on the other side is my Crossfire receiver. So it's great that I've been able to cable tie and double-sided tape those to the vertical plate out of the way, and it has created heaps of room under this stack. So it's quite a tight build if you need to put the VTX on top there, but without the VTX and receiver in the way, very spacious underneath there. So turning it over, you can see there the countersunk screws, and I've basically just added some 3D printed parts just to help me if I crash and so forth. And let's measure what it weighs. So I'll just get my scales here, zero them out, okay, and put this quad on, hoping it's under 300, sorry. Okay, so it's 300 dead, 300 grams dead without the battery. So I reckon once I take this GoPro mount off, and if I was to take some of these bumpers off, definitely be well below 300. So that's good news. I'll just move this out the way. I've got a 6S 1300 battery as well, so this bad boy is gonna go there. So we'll see how that flies. I've also got some 4-cell batteries, so we'll see how we do. And yeah, so quite pleased with the build. Everything went together quite well. Camera fits in quite good. Only thing maybe that you might see a bit of the 3D printed in the lens, in the view. So we'll see what we can do about that. If needs be, I may change this camera out and put something else in, but generally it's great. So thanks again to John Cottrell from QuadRacer.co, and yeah, really pleased with it so far. So now it's just a matter of seeing how it flies.